Welcome to day 488 of our Web3 journey. I'm Ed Krasenstein, here with my twin brother Brian. And remember, these videos are being sponsored by NFT Tech. They are an investor in DeSoFi, and DeSoFi is a mobile app for the DeSo blockchain. So, Brian, more federal investigations within the crypto space are taking place. Who's the latest to be under the spotlight of the U.S. Treasury Department?
Yeah, so Coinbase took much of the spotlight over the last week or so with the SEC investigation into whether or not they are actually listing securities by way of certain tokens. But yesterday, it also would reveal that Kraken, the other major US exchange, is under investigation by the US Treasury Department for allegedly violating sanctions, meaning that they basically permitted Iranian users onto their platform. At least these are the allegations by the Treasury Department. In the past, we've seen BitGo and BitPay and other exchanges face steep fines from the Treasury Department here in the United States for similar issues of trying to avoid sanctions, trying to allow sanctioned users or users from sanctioned nations to participate on their exchange. And these steep fines have been massive. So Kraken definitely has to watch out. Kraken's CEO and co-founder Jesse Powell, he's an interesting character. He's been very vocal, very political, and he's been outspoken about his willingness to challenge regulations that he sees unfair, including international sanctions. But we actually had a run-in with Jesse Powell, some communication with him, because we about 3 years ago had a bunch of cash on Kraken after we sold a bunch of Bitcoin, probably back in 2018 or so. And this cash was just sitting in our wallet. It was a significant amount. It was six figures. And we were trying to just hold the cash there for a Bitcoin dip we could buy into Bitcoin. So all of a sudden, I get an email that our account has been shut down. And they weren't going to actually let us withdraw this cash. Instead, they were forcing us to buy Bitcoin with that cash. And of course, if Bitcoin's really high, you don't want to buy Bitcoin with that cash and then risk transferring that Bitcoin and then maybe Bitcoin dropping, and you could lose a substantial amount of money. So we we figured out how to contact Jesse Powell, and we did. And he replied in a pretty extreme fashion, and he didn't like us at all. He said that we should know why our account was banned. I have no idea why it was. We still to this day have no idea why it was. And that I have to basically buy Bitcoin before I can get any of my money out. So that didn't go over very well. It didn't really show that he really had users' interest in mind. He refused to say why we were banned. He to this day has refused to acknowledge our ban in any way. So
I think
interesting
I
guy.
personally I think it's just because we were in the opposite end of the political spectrum from him, which is a
Yeah,
really crappy way to handle business.
I mean, that's the only thing that I can come up with, which is really, yeah, shitty. But anyway, let's move on. What's the other news? The Federal Reserve, right? They
Yeah.
have some big
First of all,
news.
I just want to say I hope Jesse Powell goes to jail. Is that bad?
Anyway, I don't want the Bitcoin. I don't
Okay.
want the Bitcoin space seeing any more upheaval. So let's hope everything really works
All
out.
right, so moving on, the Federal Reserve has a big announcement today. I don't know if you can call it a big announcement, but they're announcing their next rate hike, or I guess you could say we all assume it's going to be a rate hike. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, the Federal Reserve is expected to announce another 75 basis point raise in the interest rate. That's three quarters of a of an interest of a, what am I looking for? Three quarters of a point, three quarters of a percentage point. That's taking place 2 p.m. today. You know, the expectations are a 75 basis point raise. I think the vast majority of people think it's going to be like that. A lot of people were guessing that it could potentially be 1 point raise, but the Federal Reserve has kind of tempered those expectations down, basically saying that's not going to happen. Could it be half a percentage point, 50 basis points? Sure, but it's very doubtful. I think we're just going to see what everybody expects, and so I don't think it's going to move the markets too much. Maybe it will give the markets like a calm, just okay, we're it's what everybody thought this what's going to happen. But there's a lot of debate on whether these aggressive interest rate hikes are going to be enough to temper down inflation, because this isn't the only so when the Federal Reserve increases rates, it makes borrowing money more expensive, but that's not really the main cause of inflation. The main cause of inflation is shortages. There's the food shortages, there's the energy supply shortages, there's the shortages in factory parts, shortages in goods for the most part. And much of this has been caused by the war in Russia, and before that, and actually currently, COVID shutdowns. The COVID shutdowns of the past are still, suppliers are still working to catch up on that. But also, there's shutdowns still going on in China, some pretty big ones, which are affecting world supply of goods. So, is the interest rate really going to be enough to temper inflation, or do we just have to hope for these COVID shutdowns to reopen up and for the Russian war to I guess fizzle out before we see the end of inflation?
Yeah, and of course, this is going to have a ramifications on the crypto market. The crypto market has been tied quite a bit to the stock market, and the stock market, of course, sees kind of an inverse relationship to the bond market and the interest rate market. So as interest rates go up, stocks usually go down, and which causes crypto to go down. So we'll see if there are any surprises. I don't expect any major surprises. Tomorrow's GDP number will be important, though, as that's kind of out of control of anybody. It's just whatever the GDP number is what it is. And I think that could have an impact on the stock market as well as the crypto
Yeah,
market.
that's going to tell us more about inflation. And of course, COVID-19 restrictions and the war in Russia aren't the only causes of inflation. I think there's other causes as well, such as the Federal Reserve's interest in keeping the interest rate low for so long, even when the market was flourishing, and also the amount of money that has been pumped into the economy through stimulus, and that's on a world economy. With COVID, world governments pumped a ton of money into the economy, which increases the supply out there and causes inflation.
Yeah, and when you say the world economy, the global economy, that also goes with the global monetary strategy. I think in just keeping rates low for so long, it just all builds up. But let's move on to the DeSo blockchain. And Stargazer made an interesting post yesterday.
Yeah, Stargazer, an OG of the DeSo blockchain, been posting there for quite some time, pretty much since the beginning. Posed an interesting question to Malsified of the DeSo Foundation core team, as well as Natter, the founder of DeSo. And he simply asked, when social focus? And Malsified replied, he broke it down really well, I thought. He said that the audience breakdown currently is number one, founders, number two, developers, number three, creators, and number four, users. And they all have different wants and needs on the DeSo blockchain. They have different things that they want to see addressed, but they all also have one thing in common, and that is that they all want to see more daily active users and an increase in engagement. He said, however, quote, even if we 1000x'd our current daily active users and attracted more builders into the ecosystem, if there isn't a scalable and sustainable method for funding, which we learned wasn't easy running a traditional fund and grants program, it would still fail long term. And I think he has a good point there. He also emphasized the importance of something taking on the role of ERC20 tokens on the DeSo blockchain. And I think that's what we're seeing with the DAO coins and what the direction that that's moving into. He said, that's what they want. They want the ERC20 token like thing on the platform. He thinks that it's going to give founders the ability to build better projects and also bring in community members. He did admit that the idea is crazy, though. He actually used the word insane in trying to do what ETH did with what Ethereum did with the ERC20s. But he also said sometimes it takes crazy people to make meaningful change in this world. And I agree. I don't know if this is the answer to the all solving problem, solving the huge problem. I don't know if that's the ultimate answer, but I think it is a step in the right direction. He admitted there's a lot of room for improvements on all fronts, and he said that it just takes time and effort.
Yeah, it was a really detailed post. I really appreciate Ed Moss replying to Stargazer. I think Stargazer did as well. I also made a post in kind of reply to Mossified. He, of course, addressed the four kind of groups within the DSO community, which are founders, developers, creators, and users. And I gave suggestions, a few suggestions that I think could help all four of these thrive as we move forward. And number one, founders. I think the number one thing is founders want to be funded, and it doesn't have to be $1 million. They want to, if they're creating a product on DSO, they want to be able to get some sort of grant, and maybe it could be a $10,000 to $15,000 grant. I think the injection would give at least some leg room for these people to build something that maybe they could then bring on to DAO later on to raise additional capital, or just seek maybe a seed round if it really takes off. The Octane Fund, obviously, they made some bad choices last time. Some of the projects worked out, some didn't. But I think they need to hire someone dedicated to just the Octane Fund and just providing grants. And they could give $10,000 to $15,000 grants to a bunch of projects that are considered decent, I think. And I think that the smaller creators, the founders, I think they would really appreciate that. Also, developers, they of course want a strong development community where they can share code, but also they want grants as well. It takes time to develop, and time is money. And small grants to developers would not be out of the question. I think it could definitely help bring some developers onto the DSO blockchain. And I think most importantly, creators. As I've mentioned before, I think it would be a tremendous benefit and incredibly efficient money spent would be to do some sort of airdrop to active creators. Like you could take a list of maybe the top diamonded or top liked creators since the beginning of DSO, and then filter out the ones that have been here for in within the last like 2 or 3 weeks. So super active creators who are active still, and maybe do some sort of airdrop drop, maybe $100 in DSO, maybe a special collectible NFT. And then you could separate this segment and take the super active users who have not been here for 2 or 3 weeks and provide them a smaller airdrop, maybe $50 and some kind of collectible NFT, and then email them all and say, hey, you just got free DSO. That would bring them back, would make them appreciative. And I think it would go a long way in creating a kind of stimulating the DSO economy because there's more money to be worked with. Uh, Also, I think they need to consider providing contracts perhaps to large creators on other platforms. So some big names on like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, get them on here and give them a 12-month contract to just post here daily and engage, and just bring a few big names, maybe 5, 6, 10 big names. And I think after 10 months, if all goes as planned, they won't need any additional money to feel like they should stay here because they'll be earning it via diamonds, coin buys, etc. And finally, users.
Yeah,
I think we need to,
can I just interrupt?
yeah,
And I just wanted to mention something about the airdrops you mentioned. I think that's really an excellent idea. I think another thing you could add is when you email those users who have not been active and give them $50, you could give them the opportunity to earn the other $50 if they're active for the next month or next certain amount of time. And I also think it would be a great idea if instead of, you know, paying people who have been active, I think that's a really good idea. But I think you should also say, listen, if you're active for the next 6 months, certain amount of activity, you're going to get this. And I
yeah,
keep people
bring up the
active.
expectations. If you expect another airdrop in the future, then you're going to be active and try and get engagement.
And I need to say one more thing before you continue. You need to stop hitting your microphone. You keep doing
Yeah,
it.
I'm sorry. I'm
You just
sorry.
did it again.
I didn't hit it.
Well, it's moving or something.
I'm not hitting anything. I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on, final group are users. And I think they need to fix the creator coin. I think the bonding curve is too steep. Whether this is possible or not, I'm going to leave that up to the engineers. Maybe it's not at all possible without screwing over past buyers of creator coins. And finally, for users, I think creating some sort of plugin where every node can have links to all the other nodes somehow, I think that would go a long way, especially with Story and Pearl coming, where people can discover other nodes and kind of really truly understand what a decentralized database is all about.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, I think. Let people know that they're not just stuck on one website, that their identity and their follow graph and everything that goes along with it, their wallets, are immutable and able to be moved from app to app, website to website. So Mulsified also provided an update on DAO. He said the engineers are currently building out the Mega Swap infrastructure, which is going to make it easier to add bridges to other currencies to swap between any chain. And he asked the community for advice. He asked them for advice on what other chains should be incorporated other than Ethereum, Solana, and DeSo, of course. And there's a lot of great feedback, I thought. Clay Oglesby suggested the Flow blockchain. Zian Mead suggested Cardano and Dodge. Stubborn Dad suggested Atom and Cosmos. Sir Rhett suggested Polygon and potentially Algorand. And there are a lot of other great suggestions. And I think in time, if things go as planned, we're going to see a ton of these blockchains on the DAO platform. And
Yeah,
he also said it's going to be put to a vote on DAO sometime in the near future.
I love seeing that. I love seeing them get feedback from the community. Just I'm looking forward to seeing how these integrations with other chains could really help DAO and DeSo in the long run.
So moving on, Photographers Corner is holding their sixth photography contest of 2022, and I was unaware of this until just I guess yesterday when somebody tagged us about it. But it's an awesome contest that's going on. Africa's the user on DeSo, he's a two-time winner of the photography contest. Came up with a theme, and that theme is hashtag dark. The winner's gonna receive an Africa's NFT photo and $10, and that NFT photo has a lot of value, I believe. And there's also gonna be prizes for second, third, fourth, and fifth places. Already, there's been a ton of great entries with this dark theme, and they've been really utilizing this theme pretty well, I thought. Ari Allen had a really good one. Patrick Craven, of course, Michelle Lord, who's at the forefront of all these photography contests. Mega Lee, and there are several others who just submitted some phenomenal photographs that I think all are deserving of prizes. But definitely check it out. There's a link above this video on DeSo and below it on YouTube. Go to the link, check it out, and submit your image, submit your photo to the contest. You might win.
Yeah, I love what the Photographers Corner account is doing. It's creating engagements, making people getting people excited to be on DeSo, and I think we need that. I think we need people doing things that are unique and creating entertainment and creating kind of a contest or competition on the protocol because right now things are rather slow.
So what's up with Cloudpunk?
Yeah, so Cloudpunk had a huge announcement this morning, right before we went live here. They announced that they're going to continue minting the Cloudpunk series on DeSo until they hit 10,000, which has been the original plan. But they're also going to introduce Cloudpunk to the Avalanche community, the Avalanche blockchain, and mint 10,000 more over there. Completely unique Cloudpunk NFTs. The minting will be taking place on Joe Peg's marketplace on Avalanche. Current Cloudpunk owners will also get allow-less access to the new mint, and they'll get NFTs for free over there. There's no word yet whether you're going to get a 1-for-1 or not. So if you own 5 Cloudpunks on DeSo, will you get 5 on Avalanche? We don't know yet, but they did suggest that they might cap the limit at 10. DeSo user Ali B had a really good idea. He said to give users who buy on Avalanche the same reciprocal minting here on DeSo and help drive more user growth back this way as well, which I love. I think that's a great idea. Cloudpunk, if you're listening, consider that at least, because I think that could definitely help DeSo and just help the DeSo NFT space, especially around your brand.
Yeah, I love Ali B's idea. I think that could bring some people from Avalanche over to DeSo, and maybe they don't use it for NFTs, but maybe they use it for the social. Manu and Daniel Kemp have done a great job with Cloudpunk. I know when things slowed up, they were considering just halting minting on DeSo and just moving everything to Avalanche, or maybe start a new project on other blockchains. I know they tested that out with a few projects. I'm glad to see they're sticking around. Maybe the rebirth of the NFT space on DeSo kind of encouraged them to do so. Either way, I'm happy to have them remain on DeSo.
Yeah. So let's move to the top 10 NFT bidders over the last 24 hours on the DSO blockchain, according to NFTZ. They are Jeremy G, Studio Richards, Vindictive TJ, Vishnu Sularin, NFT Pets, Sarah NFTs, ZN Mead, Rhubarb, Tier 1 Bigums, and the BitClout Dog. And the most viewed NFT from the last 24 hours is another one by Mr. Person 177. And this one's called Psy DSO. And it's currently up for auction with a buy now of 0.32 DSO, which is what, like $2.50 if
Yeah,
even.
not a bad
Uh,
deal.
so it's a good price. And this is the third NFT that Mr. Person 177 has gotten on the list of top viewed DSO NFTs. So congrats.
Who are the top diamond creators over the last 24 hours on DSO?
Yeah, so thanks to Alton Base for providing this list. They are JD Armstrong, Photographer's Corner, who we just spoke about, Brutal, PBMC, Hockey, Now and Then, The Devil, The Social World, OEPA, and Rihan Re. And we're not
We
on this
didn't make
list,
it.
and that's a good thing.
Is it time to give up? Are we going to stop our videos?
Definitely not.
Unless we make it back to the list tomorrow, we're not going to do these videos anymore. Sorry, guys.
Ed's joking. I'll do them by myself if I have to.
All right. Well, that's all the news we have for today. Signing out for good. No, I'm just kidding. That's all the news we have for today. We will talk to you tomorrow. We will both be here unless something terrible happens to one of us, which I hope doesn't happen. But we'll be here and have a great day.